we know about the cause? How can we simplify this a bit? Well, we can use a bit of logic. Something that does not exist cannot be the cause. Let's just imagine that a detective comes to your house. He's a cold case detective. That means he investigates cases that occurred many years ago, many years in the past, which makes it really hard because the case has gone cold. The clues are old. The testimonies are old. Now, he might start by asking you questions like where you were on such and such a date. Now, it turns out that this murder that he's investigating occurred 2 years before you were born. After seeing your birth certificate, what's his reaction going to be? It probably wasn't you. No, he's going to say, okay, it definitely wasn't you. You didn't exist yet. If you didn't exist, you can't be the suspect. You can't be the murderer. You have to exist in order to be able to do that. Well, same with the universe. Something that did not yet exist cannot be the cause. It cannot be the suspect. Only something that did exist can be the cause. So what do we know didn't exist? How can we narrow those things down? What had a beginning? Well, we already saw that space, time, matter, and energy had a beginning. Therefore, they cannot be the cause because they didn't exist yet. Now, this arena is what we call nature. This is the natural world. Therefore, the natural world did not exist. It itself was created. Thus, the cause cannot be natural because nature itself didn't exist yet. Now, to understand this point, let's imagine that we're playing hide and seek. I'm going to count, I've counted to 60, and I'm going to start by searching the bedroom, for example. Now, because I'm very detail-oriented and organized, I'm not going to leave that room until I've searched every place someone could be hiding. Now, let's just say that I preconceive that you can only be hiding in the bedroom. If I have concluded that you can only be hiding in the bedroom, then I'm going to spend all my time and energy searching the bedroom. Even if I don't find you again and again and again, I've already concluded that you can only be in there, so I'm never going to leave the bedroom. Now, the problem is, if you're hiding in another room, then I'm never going to find you because I'm never going to leave the room, which means I am never, ever going to win the game. So that's the problem that we're found with here. We've searched the room of nature, and it's not just that we haven't found the cause yet that's natural, but the fact is that the cause can't be hiding there in principle. We already saw that nature itself didn't exist, therefore it can't be the cause. That's just logical. Now, if we spend our time searching the room of nature again and again and again and never leaving because we've already preconceived that the cause can only be in that room, then we're never going to win the game. We need to go search the other rooms. So the cause cannot be natural. The cause must not be natural. It must be beyond nature. We have a word for that, supernatural. And I'm not the only one pointing to a supernatural cause. Listen to what astronomer Robert Jastrow said. Astronomers now find that they have painted themselves into a corner because they have proven by their own methods that the world began abruptly in an act of creation. And they have found that all this happened as a product of forces they cannot hope to discover. That there are what I or anyone else would call supernatural forces at work is now, I think, a scientifically proven fact. Or take cosmologist Alan Sandage of Carnegie Observatories, who said, "We can't understand the universe in any clear way without the supernatural." Now, this doesn't prove theism, much less Christianity, but I'll tell you what it does do. It disqualifies both materialism and naturalism. Now, we didn't just preconceive that the cause can't be material or natural. We didn't just throw these out the window just because that was our preconceived beliefs. No. We investigated the evidence. We used our observations and logic. And that's what led us to conclude that it can't be a material and natural cause because those things didn't exist yet. So the fact is that these both claim that everything is material and all causes are natural. If just one thing exists that is not material, if just one cause exists that's not natural, then both of these fall apart. They're not true anymore. And we found that at least one thing exists that is not material, and just one cause exists that's not natural, the cause of the universe. Therefore, these are both incorrect. They're both false. And we used science to find that out. These are both pretty much doctrines held by some scientists that they affirm that this must be true, that everything must be material, all causes must be natural. Not because of evidence, but just because those are their preconceived beliefs. But that's not what science is about. Science is about discovery, about understanding the world, about finding new things. And so for the sake of discovery, what science is all about, we can let these go. To hold on to them would keep us from discovery. It would really be to stop science. Now someone would say, okay, but these are really foundational to science. We need to affirm that everything's material, that all causes are natural. Otherwise, we can't do science. The fact is, no. There are actually only two requirements to a science. First, we must believe that objective truth exists, which is what we talked about last week. If you want to see that, you can find it on our YouTube channel. You see, objective truth is what we're searching for in science. And second, truth pertaining to the physical world is discovered through human observation and reasoning. That's it. We believe in objective truth, and we find it by using our observations and reasoning. To add anything to that would be embellishment. And the fact is that affirming the existence of the supernatural is not unscientific. The fact is that science finds its roots in theism, not atheism. People expected law in nature because they believed in a divine lawgiver. People expected order in nature because they believed in a divine orderer. It's true that both theists and secularists accept the reality of the physical world. Remember, we weren't denying that a material and natural cause couldn't exist. We, as Christians, believe in both material, natural causes as well as supernatural causes. We affirm both. So whatever the evidence points to, that's what we're going to believe. The secularists restrict all reality to the physical world. So even however counterintuitive it seems, they only have that letter A on there. They only have that number 1 in the test. So no matter how counterintuitive it seems, they're just always going to punch that letter in. See, that's when it becomes lazy. When you only have one answer on a sheet, let's imagine you have a quiz, there's only one answer. You're not going to read the question. You're not going to read through the information. That's going to be a waste of time. You're always just going to punch in that same thing. And even if you read through it and be like, I don't think that fits so well, you're always going to punch that same one in because it's the only option you got. As theists, we're open to both options. So if anyone's going to find the cause and it turns out to be supernatural, it's going to be us. So we used science, not our preconceived beliefs, but science to conclude materialism and naturalism to be false. So we can let them go. As John Lennox said, even if you restrict science to natural explanations, science can still give evidence to the supernatural when it shows that no natural explanation is forthcoming. Or take what molecular biologist Douglas Axe said. Ironically, the inadequacy of the old school perspective, i.e. naturalism, perpetuates the old school work by guaranteeing that the goal of complete knowledge will never be reached. See, back in my analogy of the game hide and seek, it's because they preconceive that the suspect can only be hiding in the bedroom, that they're never going to leave that bedroom. They're going to spend all their time and energy in that bedroom. And the fact is, if the cause does turn out to be hiding in a different room, as we turned out, find that it is indeed hiding in the room of the supernatural, they're never going to win the game. They're always going to be stuck in that room. It's not until they realize that the cause might be hiding somewhere else that they might step out of that room and actually make a discovery, actually find the cause, which we found to be supernatural. And that's how you win the game. Now, some might say, but doesn't science have to be observable, testable, and repeatable? The answer is actually no. That's empirical science. That's the kind of science people do in a lab. What we're doing here is forensic science, also known as origin science. This is the kind of science people do with historical events, like what a detective does. You can't directly observe historical events because you weren't there. You can't go back in time and observe them. And the fact is, historical events are testable and repeatable. You can't take it into a lab and remake it. It only happened once. So how do we do forensic science? Well, there are two things we use. First, we observe clues from the past, left behind from the past. We reason from effect to cause. We can conclude that if this did indeed happen, we'd expect these certain clues to be left behind. And then we observe the clues that we do have on hand and try to figure out what is the probability that we would have these clues if such and such was the cause. So that's what we work with. We work with clues and try to reason back to the cause. Second, we assume uniformity, that the past works like the present. We only understand the present, so that's how we understand the past. Now, some might say, okay, I got you now. We don't observe any supernatural events occurring now in the present. So that means supernatural events didn't occur in the past either. Haha. Actually, no, not so much. Now, whether supernatural events occur in the present or not, that's an interesting conversation that we can have another time, but that's just kind of a red herring. We don't want to really go into that right now. For the sake of conversation, let's just say, sure, no supernatural events occur in the present. But the fact is, we still know from the present that Nothing resulting in everything is not a natural occurrence. That's not natural, which means it's beyond nature, which means it's supernatural. Because we know that in the present, that that's how things work right now, we know that the same thing happening in the past would also be a supernatural event.